Speak to Laura Blumenfeld, former senior policy advisor to the US State Department's Israel-Palestinian negotiating team. Thank you very much for being with us. So is Donald Trump onto something here, do you think? Could this work?
I think that they talk about too big to fail, but I think here we've got something that's too frail to fail. Talking about the hostages, their condition, the Palestinian civilians in Gaza, but also Netanyahu's coalition, which is shaky, and Hamas leadership. I think everybody is kind of at their breaking point, and so now is a good time to come through with the deal. Will it succeed? Part of it, I think, depends on the regional buy-in, which is a novelty here. When I worked on the Israeli-Palestinian negotiating team under President Obama, we couldn't get the Gulf states and other regional leaders on board to support our prospects. So I think that is something new, and that gives me some optimism.
Right. From Hamas's point of view, many Palestinians are saying that actually, when you look at the 20-point plan, it amounts to surrender.
Well, I think for Hamas at this point, there's no such thing as no. They're not going to be able to, especially if Qatar is supporting the plan. Qatar has a complete, and Turkey, they have leverage over Hamas. They can expel them. So they don't really have a lot of moves left. I think what's really important, though, to distinguish is the appearances versus reality. Israel is saying that the whole region is united behind them and behind this plan. But the reality is that there are last-minute edits. Netanyahu had the last word with President Trump in the Oval Office before the plan was announced. And there are some key differences between what the Arab and Islamic world agree to and what President Trump announced. Two of them are the Israel Defense Forces, when and how, under what circumstances they would withdraw. And the second thing is on the whole issue of Palestinian statehood, which is really a key and sort of foundational principle for these Arab countries.
Yes, I mean, that's interesting, the last one, because the Arab states who are behind this issued a joint statement saying that they were assuming this was leading to a process that would lead towards a two-state solution, essentially. But of course, Netanyahu has already ruled it out completely.
Right. And look, peacemaking always requires a little bit of rose-tinted language and lenses. So there's always a bit of vagueness. One of the reasons the Israelis like this is because a lot of the sort of perks and benefits of the agreement are front-loaded and toward the Israelis. The hostages are released within 72 hours. It's that kind of diplomatic payoff for the Palestinians, which is on the horizon, but is it one of those horizons that you just keep sailing toward and never actually arrive at?
Yeah, because if you look at the 20-point plan, it is pretty vague. There is political momentum behind it, clearly, but there isn't a whole lot in the way of detail.
Right. But remember, this is Donald Trump. So it's not only an offer, it's an exploding offer. He's given them a deadline of 3 to 4 days to accept the deal, which I think is actually helpful because as we've learned, with both sides over the decades, that if you give them time, they'll just waste it. And that is one of my key concerns with this plan. It's a 20-point plan. President Biden issued a 3-point plan, and it took 8 months of negotiations to get that hostage release. As I said in the beginning, these hostages and the Palestinians themselves are too frail to fail. And so I think that there's some kind of urgency. Trump is saying that, take the deal or else what? He's using Israel as a kind of regional Rottweiler. He'll unleash them on Hamas.
So what do you think the most likely thing is going forward? Do you see Hamas possibly saying, yes, but this needs changing, that needs changing, let's talk about this? So, in other words, do you see a protracted period of negotiation before this is done?
Well, I think that there will be a yes, but I don't think it'll be protracted for a couple of reasons. Number one, look, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th attack. These are called the Days of Judgment or the Day of Atonement in Israel, Yom Kippur. And you saw Netanyahu actually said, may you be inscribed in the book of life. He spoke in Hebrew at that press conference. He understands that this is a time for reckoning. And the same can be said for Hamas. The people, the Palestinians themselves, will look at their leaders and say, how can you walk away from a deal? We need anything to desperately get the aid that we need. And that is one thing that is promised up front for the Palestinians themselves in Gaza.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.